There was once a man named Elias who lived near the edge of a quiet village. From the outside his life looked simple. He woke up early, worked in a small workshop, greeted the people he knew, and returned home before sunset. But few noticed that Elias always walked with a heavy satchel slung over his shoulder. It was old and worn, patched in several places, and it never left his side. Inside that satchel were objects he had collected over the years. Each item represented something from his past moments he believed he should never forget. A broken piece of wood from an argument with his father. A dull coin from the day his friend betrayed him. A dried flower from someone he once loved but lost. Even a small rock from the moment he failed at something he once dreamed of becoming. He told himself that these things were reminders of what shaped him, proof of who he was. Lessons carved into objects so he would never repeat the same mistakes again. At first, the weight of the satchel didn't bother him. When he was young, he could carry it without slowing down. But as time passed, the bag grew heavier. Every year, he added new memories, some joyful, many painful, yet he never removed a single one. He believed that letting go of anything meant erasing part of his life, so he held on to all of it. The villagers often wondered why Elias walked slower than others, why he looked tired even after a short trip, why he avoided long journeys or new places. What they didn't know was that every step he took felt like pulling the past with him, as if each memory whispered its weight into his bones. One autumn afternoon, Elias walked through a forest path he hadn't visited in years. The leaves had begun to fall, painting the ground with colors of gold and rust. The air was cool and fresh, and for a moment he felt as if he could breathe more deeply than usual. But then the weight on his shoulder reminded him of everything he carried. His back ached, and every few steps he had to stop to rest. As he continued down the path, he noticed an old wooden bridge ahead. It had stood there since his childhood. Back then, he used to run across it with ease, but now, even the thought of climbing the slight incline made him pause. He set his satchel down just to catch his breath, and as he did, something unexpected happened. The moment the weight left his shoulder, he felt lighter not only physically, but in a way he had never noticed before. He sat quietly beside the bag. A soft wind rustled the leaves. For the first time, Elias looked at the satchel not with pride, but with a question he had never dared to ask himself: why was he still carrying all of this? He slowly opened the bag and saw the objects inside. Some were scratched and faded, others he didn't even recognize anymore. They had lost their meaning long ago. The memories they symbolized were already distant, yet he still dragged them with him as if they were happening every day. And in that moment, sitting alone in the forest with the setting sun glimmering through the branches, he realized something simple but powerful. Life had never asked him to carry these weights. He had chosen to. He gently lifted one object, a chipped fragment of pottery, from a painful mistake he made as a young man. He remembered how ashamed he once felt, yet now that moment no longer had the power to harm him. Still, he had kept it close, reminding himself of his failures again and again. Elias placed the pottery on the ground, letting it rest among the leaves. Then he reached for another memory and another. Some he kept for too long, some he should have forgiven long ago. Some belonged to people who were no longer in his life. Slowly and carefully, he set them all down, one by one, until the satchel was empty. When he finally stood up, the world around him felt different, not because the forest had changed, but because he had. His steps were lighter, his breath was easier. His posture straightened naturally, without him forcing it. For the first time in years, he walked across the old bridge without struggling. He didn't run, he didn't rush. He simply walked with the freedom of someone who no longer carried yesterday on his shoulders. From that day on, Elias still remembered his past, but he no longer let it control his present. He understood that memories are not chains meant to hold us down. They are footprints behind us. They show where we have walked, not where we must stay. And as he left the forest and returned to the village, those who saw him noticed something different. They couldn't quite explain it, but his step seemed lighter, his eyes clearer, and his smile more genuine. Without the weight of the past slowing him down, Elias had finally created space in his life for new experiences, new hopes, and new beginnings. Because sometimes freedom does not come from adding something new, but from letting go of what no longer serves us.
Before you go, here's something to think about. What burden from your past are you still carrying that you know you should finally let go? Share your answer in the comments. Your story might help someone else. Thank you for watching this video. If this message connected with you, please consider subscribing to The Moral Room.